Welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be talking about the show Nisha, and I'm just going to explain my opinion and what I think about the show. One of my favorite things about the show is that it's one of those shows that you can watch over and over again, and the jokes are like very funny without them having to be too explicit or anything, and they're like, I'm not explaining, like, there are a lot of implementations that they have in the jokes, but they're not doing too much. It's like a show that's funny but clean, and they don't have to do too much to get like shock out of the audience and everything. And I really enjoyed the show. Another part about the show is that I loved how it was like a very black show in a way of like the show didn't have like, how do I say it? Like, it wasn't ghetto, it wasn't rowdy, it was just like black culture presented in an accurate way, especially when it started to go into connotations of African culture, because I remember there was an episode where like the father and the son brought like African drums, like Nigerian drums, and they were playing it and stuff like that. I thought that was very cool, and I just really enjoyed that about the show, was how it went into black culture, and it was very accurate, but they didn't make it too explicit, they didn't do too much, they didn't do too little, they just did enough to give you knowledge about the culture, especially when it came out to the clothes, the way they talked, the time period, the music, their acting skills, the slang, the catchphrases, you know? I was like, it was AAVE, but like the 90s version. And I just really enjoyed it about the show. It wasn't a show that was afraid to like be with the times, but at the same time, they still were like black in a way. I don't know how to explain like hip hop. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like a very good show. And it's like one of those shows that you could like put in black, that would be like, that's black cinema, but good. You know, it wasn't like, had a lot of negative stereotypes. It didn't, not negative stereotypes, but like, yeah, negative stereotypes. It didn't like, I don't explain, it was like healthy, you know? And they weren't doing too much. Like, you know, you watch like a lot of black shows and it's usually like, oh, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. It like took a break from that. It showed positivity, you know? I don't know how to explain it. But, you know, it was just like a good show to watch. So now we move into the part of the story, and where like basically what happens is that Clark basically, no, so Clark leaves, and then everything comes back to normal and everything, and like she really starts to have her life back on track. Julie's mother has like the boyfriend Luke, and because like Luke was like ignoring her and telling her like shit and everything, she just stops like answering him and everything. She's like taking time for herself. It's like everything is going on track and everything is going on normal, and Julie starts to put her life back together. And I don't really understand why she even liked Luke in the first place. Like, my God, he wasn't even anything in my opinion. He was just trash. He realizes that he cannot send his brother Grant back, and he realizes the reason why he can't do this is because he misses him and he's not ready to let go of him. And he also talks about how he wished it was him who died instead of Grant. And then there's like another part of the story where like Grant comes to like visit Julie, and I think in this part it's like he comes to visit her, and then I think he's like possessed in like Clark's body. Has to be possession, because that's usually how it works. And then like he's like with her and everything, and they're like talking and stuff like that, and then they end up like kissing and stuff, and then they're like getting intimate, whatever. And then because there's like this very, very descriptive about like what they're doing and stuff, and then after that he's like asking her if it's okay, and he's like being very gentle. He's like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then just making sure you're consenting and all that stuff. Personally, that's what I want my time to be like, because I'm not doing what no rough man doing this and that. Like, no, I want it to be gentle, soft, romantic, all that stuff. I want him to make sure that, because at the end of it, like, it's okay if then he's like asking her to do work further, just like making sure that she's ready and all that stuff. He was just so sweet and so kind and everything. It's just a shame Grant had to be a fucking ghost. I feel like if Grant wasn't a ghost, they would definitely be canon in the book. And then after that, she ends up like yelling or like screaming Clark's name, and then that ends up like stopping the possession, and they don't finish doing it. And then he ends up like coming into like condoms on the floor, because there's a scene where she says yes to it, and then after that he ends up like playing it out, and then there's like the condom like on the floor, and then Clark is like, oh, I can't believe you're about to sleep with my brother, and da 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 da. And he was like, we're about to do it, and then like oh, again, you don't see my brother, and then after, this is the craziest thing though, part so that I don't understand. How is it that her and Clark aren't dating? At this point, they're literally just like best friends. I think they like kissed a couple of times and everything. And then they're not dating, they're not official, they're not nothing. And she's mad that he's doing this with Grant. It's like, if I'm not dating you and we're not official, you're none of my business and I'm none of your business because we're not official. That's just my rule. And then after that, they're just like mad about it. And she's like, oh, I don't deserve Clark, and it's like, this is the same man who couldn't even admit to you that he had feelings for you. He doesn't deserve you. And it was literally Grant who had to go to her and literally go through her bedroom window just to tell her that Clark likes her. At this point, you didn't even know that Grant had anything for her. It was only that you know Clark because Clark's bitch ass could not tell her that. Another thing is, that man is a coward. I don't know what she finds attractive about him. If I was her, I would just keep their friendship at minimum. And I would just date Grant. Ghost or not, he's still better. And it's sad because how come a whole fucking ghost is better as a boyfriend than a human is? And that's sad. And then on top of that, they tried to make him seem like this evil creature all because he was like, because he did not want to go back into his ghost form. Because like, he also does explain what death feels like, and he explains that it's cold and all that, and it's this horrible feeling and all that stuff. And I do feel bad for him and everything because I feel like Grant has more purpose than Clark does. Like, I know it's weird to say, but my preference of character has always been Grant to me because he's just less annoying, he's less bitchy, and I just did not enjoy his character. Anything else I have to say about the book? No. I just feel like her and Grant would have been way better and more compatible. And I understand people like the best friends lovers trope, but do we truly want her to suffer just to be with him? Or could we just like have a thing and we're like her and Grant? I don't know how that's gonna work because he's supernatural. But I'm just saying, maybe there could be like a thing and we're like, oh, Clark realizes that he doesn't want his body, so he gives it to Grant. That's just my thing of what I think should happen, but y'all writers, y'all write what y'all feel. And I was like shocked because like I was shocked, but at the same time I wasn't shocked. Like I knew something was gonna happen, but I didn't think they would almost hook up. I thought maybe like another kid or something, but when I was reading it, my eyes were glued to the scene. I was just picturing it, and then I was just getting so hot and bothered by it. I was like, oh my goodness, you really was doing it. And I was like, what the Jesus. And like I said, she ends up screaming Clark's name, which is weird. And then they end up like stopping, and then Clark comes in. He's like, oh, I see the comments, and then he's getting mad and all that stuff. And she's talking about, oh, she just better than him. He deserves better than her and all that stuff. And then they're bitching, but it's like, y'all not dating, y'all not official. She should have just been with Clark. She should have done what she wanted to do and be with Clark and not with Clark's bitch ass, because this man is the same man who couldn't even tell you that he liked you, and his brother literally had to do it for him, and he was running around like a damn coward, and anything could happen to you because of his bitch ass. Where you had Grant, who would have been more than welcome to protect her, to love her, and do all that stuff. But no, for some reason they want Clark. Personally, I can never have boyfriend as Clark because that man, it would have been one time and done. And what I mean by that is that I would have seen how he moved in that friendship, and he would have screwed it up, and I would just never have dated him because, like I said, Clark is just not my type. He's too scary. No, not scary. Clark is not my type. He is too whiny. He's too annoying. He's too cowardice. He's just small. He's just honey bear Grant, you know, protective, caring, kind, loving, consent. I'm sorry, I can't do no Clark. Clark is a bitch ass, and I don't like that. In the scene where they're about to do it and everything, it basically explains that the reason that he's coming back and he's doing this and all that stuff is because he literally misses her so much to the point where he's come to like take over the body and all that stuff so he can do this. So, damn, it's like another thing that Clark can't do that Grant can. I'm just saying, I do not like Clark's character. My favorite character in the book will always be Grant. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, if I didn't forget to mention, just Liam and Jason, I did not like them. I think I mentioned that. I didn't like them. They are just disgusting. They're predators, they're sexual monsters. They can't take their word no. Just no. I'm not liking characters after all. Like, I hope their characters end up in jail, all because he didn't like the 14. It's like, there are a lot of things that people don't like in jail. That don't mean you go out being a predator and sexually harassing your fellow classmates. No, you just take it with grace and you leave. Like a normal human being, but their characters can't do that. And then, like I said, I was trying to like Luke's character in the beginning because I thought he could have been a decent father figure, but he just turned to be really annoying in the new scenes throughout the book. And I don't know what the point of his character is. I don't know who's worse, Liam, Jason, or Luke. They just all in the same boat. Horrible characters. Terrible. Jesus. And then there's Julie. I actually don't have a problem with Julie. She's not my favorite character, but I don't have a problem with her. And then there's the mom. For me, I just feel like she has so much low self-esteem. And it's just, ugh. I feel like if the grandmother was still alive, she would have been my favorite character. And then there's like the other people who like can help with her powers and stuff. Like there's like dude that works in the store, the other girls that work in the store stuff. Actually, I have problem with their characters. There's okay, it's okay. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about the ending of Teen Spirit. I actually finished reading it today, and I wanted to get it out so I would not be stuck reading upon the story. And so let me get my notes. Notes. Let me get it. Jesus, where's my notes? Oh, crap, my notes, where are they? Okay, they're right here. Okay, so basically Grant wants to help Julie with her grandmother, even though in order to reach the grandmother, it would be a way of like getting rid of him basically, and he knows that, and then you think that he's doing it out of kindness, but then actually there's like a scene where like she keeps trying to get her to do it, and then she's gonna like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, and then after that they end up like getting in a car because they're like with their ashes, and I think they're like at a beach or somewhere with like water, and they're trying to like do it and everything to like fix it. And so basically after that they get into a car, and then after that when you get into the car and everything, he basically like really tells his master plan. His master plan is basically that he is going to take over the body of Clark and be the one of understanding. And the reason he's doing this is because he had his life taken away from him so short, because he was basically like the star athlete, and he was gonna go somewhere, I think like on a good college scholarship for like athleticism or whatever, and he had that taken away from him. And he basically explains that what happened was that the driver had like a girlfriend, and it was him in the car, and he ends up like taking up wine to show what happened, and something happened with the wine or something. No, I think they were trying to like be romantic with the wine and all that stuff while they were like driving, and he thought it was like, and the person was trying to be cute and everything, and then something happened with the wine causing them to crash, and then he did that, and he was like, oh, isn't this romantic, this is like how I died, and it's not funny to play with people's lives. And also she was trying to show Julie that, and then he basically explains to her that all he has to do is like to get rid of him by tomorrow. And then she's like, oh, did you just say tomorrow night? And then he was like, oh, never trust a ghost, and then all that stuff. And then after that she basically finds that he's evil and all that stuff. And then after that, she's like finding a way to like get rid of him. And then she's like, oh, but Clark is a lot stronger than you think and all that stuff. And then she's like, no. And he's like, no, all I have to do is scare him. And then after that, she starts imagining her grandmother and all that stuff. And then she starts imagining Clark. And it doesn't work the first time, so she does it again. And then after that, ends up working. And after she ends up like imagining Clark and everything, he's like there, and then he's like trying to protect her and trying to like save her and all that. And he like imagines her, and I was kind of shocked because this is the same person who was like a coward, and he was like afraid of ghosts and all that stuff. And it was like either he was afraid of it, he didn't believe in it, but it was like when he was afraid of it, he would run away and all that stuff. So seeing him man up, it was good. It was nice to watch. Very good character development. And then after that, after he saves her, she has to tie him just in case that he's Grant, because like his eyes started glowing just like Grant's eyes glow red when he's like possessing the body of Clark. And then after that, Clark and Julie are finally able to connect with their grandmother, and she finally gets like the message that she's always wanted for so long. I forgot what it was, but it was a very important message in the book. They end up finally releasing Clark with love, because remember at this point, Grant, because remember at this point, Clark couldn't release Grant because it was the same thing for Julie, because she really genuinely thought that she was in love with Grant, because he was pretending to be something that he was not, and she couldn't release him because of that either. And then after that, they both take turns releasing him with love, and then he does actually end up apologizing for it. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I hurt you, Clark," and all that stuff. And then they actually do a recap of his life and everything. And then it basically explains that he had his life taken away, unfortunately, and that's why he became the monster that he did in that scene. And that's why he became this demonic whatever that he was. And then there's like another scene of where like I forgot, like he becomes that, and then all that stuff. Finally ends up learning to love herself and all that stuff, and then she kind of realized that the person that she should have been with in the first place was right in front of her, and that she had no business being with a Grant in the first place. But that's what I was trying to tell people. They were going to end up together no matter how much y'all thought they weren't, and how much they're the best friend love to lovers trope was happening. There was no way in hell Julie and Clark were not gonna end up together, and I'm honestly very happy that they did, because like I didn't really understand the connection, but at the end of the book you start to understand it, and like the ending is actually very satisfying. Yeah, and then there's like another scene where she finally can like talk to talk to Grant, and then she like really is like letting him go, and that's like one of the best scenes you can see in the book, because she's like finally not afraid to let him go. And the same thing for Clark, but it was like more so her. And then after that happened and everything, you could see that the whole reason why everything was happening was mainly because of like Grant and everything. Like first of all, the fridge for the thingy it stopped rotting, it stopped shaking, and it stopped being possessed because he was leaving and he was no longer there. And then after that, Luke and Luke and Julie's mom that I ended up together. I'm so happy because she deserves so much better. And I love how she became like a character who just started loving herself, and she didn't really need someone to make her happy. She made herself happy, and then she ended up like finding a job for her. So good for her. Especially for the part where she found self love, that was beautiful. And then like Julie found self love too, and then she ends up like being with like her best friend, because there's a casino where like they basically end up going to prom together. He kisses her on the cheek. He's like fooling around with the food and all that stuff. And then after that, they go outside, and then they have like the garden, and then she ends up like kissing him and all that stuff. And then she's like, when she's doing this, she feels like what do you call it? She feels like when she was imagining herself at the altar with all these colors and all these images and all that stuff that the colors represent. And I was like, oh my god, that's so beautiful. And then, he's going to MIT, she's going to Stanford. And it was like very unexpected, but not expected, because it was like, I knew that they would end up together because, like I said, Grant was a ghost, and I knew that the writers would never actually do a thing where he would take over the body, because it would literally make no sense and would probably give the readers a headache. So them going with that storyline made the most sense out of everything. And I'm honestly looking back at it, like, yes, I like Grant's character more, but it was kind of like he was pretending to be somebody he wasn't, and then when they got exposed and everything, it was like a plot twist, but then it made me happy because it made more sense and everything to come together. And then after that happened and everything, you finally got like the proper ending. They ended up together, and I really love it because his character development was good, because he finally grew some balls, and that's when I started to actually like them together. And then after that, there was, like I said, the prom scene and all that stuff. And then when I realized that was the ending and everything, I was like, that is such a beautiful ending, and I actually do like them together. And I feel like if they could make a second book or something, or like give them a movie or something, or like something else to show what happens like in their adult life, that would be beautiful. And if we find out more about Clark, because at this point I don't really have a problem with him, both like in the beginning and the middle of the book that I can stand him, but like the end where he like ends up saving her and all that stuff, I was like, oh, he's not that bad. I actually like his character, and he's not annoying anymore, and he just became like more an intriguing character when he saved her, and I was like, finally, he is not a wuss anymore. Finally, he has some type of use. And I also kind of wonder, does Clark have something in him too? Because if what do you call it? If Julia is like a psychic slash an intuitive, and they're doing this stuff together, and whenever they do stuff together, things happen. Maybe he has something in him too, in his bloodline, that creates this magic that works with her magic. So that would be interesting. I feel like also another part of the story they didn't talk about is like the way of like how he his character, but like I know I talked about his character development, but his character development was actually really really good, especially in the way of like they kept his character like sweet and kind and everything, but he ended up like growing his own strength. But they also described his strength as growing it from Grant in a way because they're two different characters, and I just thought it was just so amazing. And it was like the part where he ended up like saving Julie was the moment I was like, they're gonna end together. He's like one of my characters I actually like, and yeah, it's like I don't know. He's an okay character. He's not my favorite, but I don't dislike him. But if he ever goes back to being whiny and annoying, then he's not gonna be my favorite character. And that's it. The thing like I would say, I do feel bad for Grant's character, but the way that he came back and the way that he was acting as a ghost was just terrible. And I just felt like it was just like I just feel like I feel like he could have been redeemed, but at the same time he was like a really awful character. And I was like, now that I think about it, he can't be redeemed. His character just needed to stay in hell. And honestly, like I said, I felt bad for his character, but that did not give him the right to be out here doing the most for no reason, to be out here antagonizing the people and to just be so bothersome. And then that whole plot twist just to find out that he was actually like a demonic ghost was like, wow, it was like amazing. But at the same time, it was like, not at the same time, it was actually an amazing plot twist that I really liked. And this, to me, will always be the driving point of like what made Clark and Julie end together. And I'm happy they did it because they have good chemistry. He treats her right, and they like each other. And they generally seem to be interested in each other, and they both generally seem to like each other, treat each other nicely, and all that stuff. And that's it. I'm just happy that everybody, like I said, good chemistry. They seem to like each other, and they treat each other great, and they're not toxic. So, yeah. And they came such a long way, especially Clark's character. Like, oh my goodness, I cannot stand his character. Not my favorite character, but he's not annoying as he used to be. I'd say he's an okay character. Not the best. Okay.